If you thought leading America through the Great Depression and World War II was tough, try enduring the meals served at Franklin D. Roosevelt's White House. The 32nd president may have steered the nation through its darkest hours, but when it came to dinner, even foreign dignitaries learned to eat beforehand. The food was so notoriously terrible that it became a Washington legend, and FDR himself was trapped at his own table, eating sweetbreads 6 days a week while his wife Eleanor turned the White House kitchen into a science experiment. From jelly donuts for breakfast to martinis so bad they ended up in potted plants. Here's what FDR actually ate every day. The jelly donut breakfast. Despite coming from one of New York's wealthiest families, FDR had surprisingly simple tastes when it came to breakfast. His favorite way to start the day was with jelly donuts, specifically German-style Berliner Pfannkuchen, fried pastries filled with jam. According to sources, Roosevelt would have breakfast on a tray in his bedroom, enjoying these sweet treats alongside his meticulously prepared coffee. The president was extremely particular about that coffee. It had to be a dark French roast, and here's where things got interesting. FDR insisted the coffee maker be brought directly into his room so he could brew it himself. Green coffee beans were roasted fresh in the White House kitchen specifically for him. For a man who couldn't control much about his meals, at least he could control his morning caffeine. When he wasn't indulging in donuts, FDR's breakfast options included creamed chipped beef, corned beef hash with poached eggs, and fried cornmeal mush drizzled with maple syrup. He also had a taste for kippered herring and salt mackerel, foods that sound more like a Victorian gentleman's breakfast than something from the 1930s and 40s. Eleanor's revenge. The White House kitchen disaster. Now, here's where things get truly fascinating. When FDR won the presidency in 1932, he and Eleanor made a deal. She would run the White House, he would run the country, and neither would interfere with the other's domain. Eleanor took this agreement very seriously, perhaps too seriously. She hired Henrietta Nesbitt, a friend from Hyde Park, New York, as the White House housekeeper. Mrs. Nesbitt had exactly zero professional cooking or hospitality experience. She'd sold baked goods when her husband lost his job during the Depression, and that was it. But Eleanor didn't care about credentials. She cared about making a statement. The result? Historian Laura Shapiro described it perfectly. White House meals became so gray, so drooping, and so spectacularly inept that they became a Washington legend. One longtime White House maid wrote in her memoirs that much has been said about the bad food at the Roosevelt White House, and all of it is true. The 7.5-cent meals. Eleanor's mission was to show solidarity with struggling Americans during the Great Depression. Working with home economists, she developed menus that prioritized nutrition and economy over taste. One famous example was her 7.5-cent lunch: hot deviled eggs and tomato sauce, mashed potatoes, wheat bread, and coffee. The entire meal cost less than a dime per person. Sounds decent enough, right? Well, other typical White House lunches included bouillon served alongside a bread and butter sandwich, literally just bread and butter. Dinner might feature boiled carrots dumped on top of spaghetti, or kedgeree, a British stew of boiled fish, rice, and eggs. Guests started referring to the bland chicken soup as rainwater soup. Prunes appeared constantly, especially for dessert. According to reports, Eleanor served prune pudding with alarming frequency, so much so that newspapers began publishing the recipes as if encouraging Americans to subject themselves to the same culinary punishment. FDR's actual favorites that he rarely got. Here's the tragedy. FDR actually loved good food. Before entering the White House, he enjoyed filet mignon, lobster, oysters, crab, Lake Superior whitefish, king salmon, and caviar. He had refined tastes cultivated over a lifetime of privilege. His favorite sandwich? A classic grilled cheese. He loved hot dogs so much that he famously served them to King George VI and Queen Elizabeth during their 1939 visit to the United States. The king ate them gleefully from silver trays, though rumor has it the queen didn't quite know how to approach them. FDR also enjoyed wild duck, seafood chowder, and a dish called Country Captain, chicken and vegetables topped with gravy and served over rice. For what it's worth, These dishes rarely appeared during Eleanor and Mrs. Nesbit's reign of culinary terror. The sweetbread incident. In 1937, the New York Times ran a headline that perfectly captured FDR's domestic nightmare. Same meal 4 days irks Roosevelt. The president had complained to Eleanor about being served chicken 6 times a week. The chicken situation improved and was promptly replaced by sweetbreads, organ meats, 6 times a week instead. FDR eventually wrote to Eleanor in frustration, "Do you remember that about a month ago I got sick of chicken because I got it at least 6 times a week? The chicken situation has definitely improved, but they have substituted sweetbreads, and for the past month I have been getting sweetbreads about 6 times a week. I am getting to a point where my stomach positively rebels, and this does not help my relations with foreign powers." Imagine trying to negotiate with Winston Churchill on a stomach full of overcooked organ meats. Either that, or Mrs. Nesbit truly had no idea what she was doing in the kitchen. Mrs. Nesbit's iron rule. Henrietta Nesbit wasn't just a bad cook, she was actively defiant. FDR announced early in his presidency that he disliked broccoli. She kept serving it to him anyway. He would ask for coffee and get iced tea. Once, when he was sick and specifically requested canned asparagus, Nesbit told him it was unobtainable. His secretary immediately went to a nearby store and returned with 10 cans. According to one White House maid, Nesbit stood over the cooks, making sure that each dish was overcooked or undercooked or ruined one way or another. The president's roasts came out dry and leathery. His vegetables were boiled into submission. FDR told friends he wanted to win a 4th term in 1944, "just so I can fire Mrs. Nesbit." When he was finally re-elected and requested chicken a la king for his inaugural luncheon, Nesbit served him chicken salad instead. The president's own inaugural lunch, and she still wouldn't give him what he wanted. The Churchill exception. Interestingly, when British Prime Minister Winston Churchill visited the White House during World War II, suddenly the kitchen could produce properly cooked, high-quality meals. Churchill received rare roast beef, while the Roosevelts ate their usual leathery fare. As one historian noted, if a decent meal could be summoned for Churchill on short notice, why couldn't the Roosevelts eat well every night? The answer, according to some biographers, might have been intentional. Eleanor's stubborn loyalty to Mrs. Nesbit, despite complaints from FDR, the staff, and virtually every dinner guest, may have been a form of revenge. FDR had been unfaithful, and the couple led separate personal lives despite their public partnership. If Eleanor couldn't control his affairs, at least she could control his meals. The one meal. Eleanor actually cooked. Every Sunday night, the Roosevelts had a family tradition, scrambled eggs, and Eleanor made them herself, right at the table in a chafing dish. The menu was simple: scrambled eggs, cold meat, salad, a cold dessert, and cocoa. Nobody ever complained about Sunday supper. The eggs were good, and the evening was always a success. In a lifetime surrounded by servants and staff, this was the only meal Eleanor regularly prepared. Perhaps she felt the contentment that comes from knowing you've done something right, even if it was just once a week. The famous hot dog dinner. In June 1939, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth visited Hyde Park, and FDR decided to serve them an all-American meal, hot dogs. It was a bold choice that made international headlines. The king, unfazed by the informality, happily ate his hot dogs from silver trays. The queen reportedly struggled with the mechanics of eating them, but gamely tried. The picnic also included ham, smoked turkey, salads, and strawberry shortcake. For FDR, it was a chance to serve food he actually enjoyed and to showcase American cuisine without Eleanor's scientific cookery interfering. Who can blame him? The martini hour. If FDR couldn't enjoy his meals, at least he could enjoy what came before them. Every day before dinner, the president hosted what he called the Children's Hour, an informal gathering of staff and friends where he mixed martinis himself. According to multiple accounts, FDR fancied himself quite the skilled mixologist. Unfortunately, virtually everyone who drank his martinis disagreed. His recipe was unconventional: 2 parts gin to 1 part vermouth, a splash of olive brine, both lemon twist and olive as garnish, and occasionally a drop or 2 of absinthe. Sometimes he'd add fruit juice or Benedictine liqueur. His grandson later admitted that FDR made truly awful martinis. One Supreme Court justice reportedly poured his cocktails into a potted plant every time. The president's speechwriter noted that Roosevelt seemed to experiment on each occasion with a different percentage of vermouth, gin, and fruit juice. Despite the complaints, FDR remained undeterred, even mixing martinis for Joseph Stalin at the Tehran Conference in 1943. Stalin's verdict? Cold on the stomach. The Haitian libation. When FDR retreated to his Hyde Park mansion on weekends during World War II, he liked to host parties for Hollywood friends and other visitors. His signature drink for these occasions was something he called the Haitian libation, a mixture of dark rum, brown sugar, orange juice, and egg white, shaken in a frosted tumbler. According to his son Elliot, FDR developed this concoction for women companions when he wanted them to feel frivolous. Whether it actually achieved that goal is anyone's guess, but it certainly demonstrates Roosevelt's enthusiasm for experimental bartending. Life after Prohibition. As the president who repealed Prohibition, FDR felt it was his patriotic duty to embrace America's cocktail culture. Before repeal, he'd brazenly motored around golf courses with a silver shaker full of illegal martinis. After signing the 21st Amendment, he mixed the first legal martinis served in the White House at those now famous afternoon gatherings. Eleanor didn't participate in these happy hours. Coming from a family plagued by alcoholism, both her father and brother had battled addiction, she avoided alcohol entirely. She'd seen firsthand what it could do to people, and she wasn't about to join in FDR's daily cocktail ritual. Let's face it, someone had to remain sober while Mrs. Nesbitt ruined dinner. The Truman Era. When Harry Truman became president after FDR's death in 1945, Mrs. Nesbitt continued her reign of culinary terror. That lasted exactly as long as it took Bess Truman to taste the biscuits. After one meal, Bess announced that all biscuits should be freshly made, not store-bought. Nesbitt insisted they were fresh. Bess, whose grandfather had produced Queen of the Pantry flour in Missouri, informed Nesbitt that she knew store-bought when she tasted it. The Trumans were a meat and potatoes family who expected their food to be simple but skillfully prepared. Henrietta Nesbitt was promptly fired, to the relief of White House guests and probably the private satisfaction of FDR's ghost. The legacy looking back, FDR's daily eating experience was a study in contrasts. A man who loved fine food, forced to eat boiled kidney and green beans. A president who could negotiate with world leaders but couldn't get canned asparagus when he was sick. A skilled politician whose wife weaponized prune pudding. Yet in some ways, it worked. Eleanor succeeded in her mission to show solidarity with struggling Americans. The White House wasn't serving champagne and caviar while people stood in bread lines. The meals were economical, nutritious if not delicious, and utterly democratic in their mediocrity. FDR, they're just like us. Well, except for the part where they're eating sweetbreads 6 days a week while planning D-Day. And honestly, that might be the most relatable part of all. Even the most powerful person in the world couldn't escape a bad cook with an agenda. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more videos about presidential food habits are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.